The morning started like any other for Jake Morrison aboard Haven Station. He was drinking his coffee and watching Earth spin slowly below when the alarms began screaming through every corridor. Red lights flashed as his communication device buzzed with urgent messages. Something big was happening. Jake ran to the command center where dozens of people were staring at their screens with wide eyes. Captain Lisa Bennett was already there, her face pale as she pointed at the main display. 3 massive ships hung in space just beyond Mars' orbit. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. The ships looked like giant insects made of dark metal, with sharp edges that seemed to cut through space itself. "Sir, they're trying to communicate with us," said Lieutenant Chris Baker from his station. His hands shook slightly as he worked his controls. "The signal is coming through on multiple frequencies." Jake nodded and straightened his uniform. As the senior officer on Haven Station, first contact with alien life would fall to him. He had trained for this moment, but never really believed it would happen. "Put it on screen." The display flickered and showed a creature that made several people step backward. It stood nearly 8 feet tall with a body covered in shiny black armor that looked like it had grown from its skin. Its head was triangular with 2 large compound eyes that reflected light like broken mirrors. When it moved, Jake could hear a clicking sound that seemed to come from its mouth. "I am War Prime Klaxon of the Zephyrian Confederation," the creature said. Its voice was flat and cold, translated by some device that made it sound almost human. "We have conquered 17 star systems before yours. Your species will submit to our rule immediately." Jake felt his heart racing, but kept his voice steady. "I'm Commander Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. We're willing to talk, but we don't submit to anyone." The alien's head tilted to one side. "Talk? There is nothing to discuss. We have studied your military strength through your communications. Your weapons are simple. Your soldiers are weak biological forms without proper enhancement. You keep small animals as companions instead of using them for food or labor. This shows weakness of mind." Lisa stepped forward. As Earth's top expert on animal behavior, she had been chosen to help with any alien contact. "Those animals you mention are our partners. They work with us." Klaxon made a sound that might have been laughter. "Partners? Impossible. Strong species dominate weak ones. This is natural law throughout the galaxy. You will learn this when we arrive at your worlds." The communication ended, leaving the command center in silence. Jake looked around at his crew. Some looked scared, others angry. All of them looked to him for answers he didn't have. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," Jake said. "And send warnings to all human colonies. We need to prepare for war." While Jake dealt with the military response, Lisa was thinking about what the alien had said about their animals. She made her way to the station's small park area, where several crew members kept pets to help with the stress of deep space duty. A German shepherd named Rex belonged to Sergeant Ben Carter, who was visiting from the supply ship that had docked yesterday. Rex was acting strange. The big dog stood at the observation window staring out at space, his ears forward and his body tense. Lisa had never seen him behave this way before. She approached slowly. "What's wrong with him?" Ben asked, worry clear in his voice. Rex had been his companion for 5 years and had never acted like this. "I'm not sure," Lisa said, watching the dog carefully. "Has he been like this long?" "Started about an hour ago, right around the time those ships showed up. He keeps looking at the same spot in space and growling." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Dogs had senses humans didn't fully understand. If Rex was reacting to the alien ships, what did that mean? Her communication device buzzed with messages from other stations and ships. The reports were all the same. Dogs throughout human space were acting strangely. Some were hiding, others were aggressive, and many were staring at the sky like Rex. It was happening everywhere at once. Back on Earth, General Pete Collins was calling an emergency meeting of all defense commanders. The aliens had given humanity 24 hours to surrender before they would begin attacking human colonies. It wasn't much time to prepare, but Collins had been planning for this possibility his entire career. "What do we know about them?" Collins asked his intelligence officer. "Not much, sir. They call themselves Zephyrians. Based on their appearance and behavior, They seem to be insect-like creatures with a military society. They've conquered 17 other star systems, which suggests they're very good at war. Any weaknesses? Unknown, sir. But there's something interesting in their communication. They seem confused by our relationship with dogs and other animals. They called it a sign of weakness. Collins almost smiled. They don't understand pets? No, sir. Their society appears to be based on dominance and strength. They can't comprehend why we would care for animals that don't serve an obvious military or economic purpose. This gave Collins an idea, but he needed more information first. He called Lisa Bennett, who was still on Haven Station studying the strange animal behavior. Dr. Bennett, Collins said when she answered, I need you to tell me everything you can about how our dogs are reacting to these aliens. Lisa had been compiling reports for the past few hours. It's extraordinary, General. Dogs across human space are showing the same responses. They seem to be able to detect the aliens in ways we can't. Some are showing fear, others aggression, but all of them know something is wrong. Could they be useful in a military situation? Possibly. Dogs have been human companions and working partners for thousands of years. They have senses we don't have and instincts we've learned to trust. If these aliens don't understand that relationship, it might give us an advantage they won't see coming. Collins was quiet for a moment. Doctor, I want you to start working with our military dog handlers immediately. If we're going to fight, we need every advantage we can get. Meanwhile, War Prime Klaxon was reviewing the intelligence his ships had gathered about human military capabilities. The humans had decent technology for a young species, but their numbers were small and their weapons were basic. Most importantly, they showed clear signs of weakness in their social structure. They waste resources caring for non-productive animals, Klaxon told his subordinates. They show emotional attachment to creatures that serve no military purpose. This indicates soft thinking that we can exploit. His tactical officer clicked agreement. Shall we proceed with standard invasion protocol? Yes. Begin with the outer colonies. Show them the cost of resistance. When they see their settlements burning, they will surrender quickly. Humans appear to value individual lives over strategic advantage. Another weakness we can use. Klaxon was confident. The Zephyrian way of war had never failed. Analyze the enemy, find their weaknesses, and strike with overwhelming force. Humans would be just another species to add to the Confederation. But as the alien ships moved toward human space, something was happening that Klaxon could not have predicted. Across dozens of worlds, in military bases and family homes, on ships and space stations, dogs were alerting their human partners to danger, and humans who had learned to trust their four-legged companions over thousands of years were listening. The war was about to begin, and neither side fully understood what they were about to face. The Zephyrians saw weakness where there was actually strength, and humans were about to discover that their oldest alliance would become their greatest weapon. The first attack came at dawn on the mining colony of Kepler 442b. Colonel Danny Wright was having breakfast with his staff when the sky filled with black shapes. The Zephyrian ships moved like angry insects, fast and deadly. They dropped from orbit in perfect formation, landing troops at key points around the colony. Danny had been a soldier for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The aliens moved with mechanical precision, each one knowing exactly where to go and what to do. Their weapons fired beams of energy that cut through walls like paper. Within minutes, they had surrounded the main settlement. All units, this is Colonel Wright, he spoke into his radio. We are under attack. Execute Defense Plan Alpha. Do not let them take the communication center. His men were scared but well trained. They took positions behind barricades and began firing back at the aliens. The Zephyrians seemed surprised by the human response. They had expected quick surrender, not determined resistance. In the command bunker, Lieutenant Chris Baker was trying to coordinate the defense with his dog Scout, a German shepherd trained to detect explosives. Scout had been restless all morning, whining and pacing near the entrance. Now Chris understood why. Scout's picking up something, Chris told his sergeant. There might be explosives nearby. Scout led them to a ventilation shaft where they found Zephyrian devices that would have destroyed the entire bunker. The aliens had planned to kill the human leaders quickly, but Scout had saved them all. Meanwhile, on Mars, Dr. Amy Foster was working in her laboratory when the attack reports started coming in. She had been studying the biological samples from the first alien contact, trying to understand how the Zephyrians worked. What she found was both fascinating and terrifying. They have incredibly advanced smell detection, she reported to General Collins on Earth. Their sensory organs can track individual scents across vast distances. That's how they hunt so effectively. Any weaknesses? Collins asked. Maybe. Their sensory system is so sensitive that it might be possible to overload. They seem to work in groups with very specific roles. If you disrupt their organization, they might not adapt quickly. Collins was taking notes. Every piece of information could save human lives. What about their physical capabilities? They're strong and fast, but they rely heavily on their technology. Their natural armor is tough but not perfect. Standard, military weapons can hurt them if used correctly. Back on Kepler 442b, the battle was not going as the Zephyrians had planned. They had expected to face individual human soldiers who would break and run when outnumbered. Instead, they found humans who fought in coordinated groups and refused to give up. Danny Wright was commanding from the front lines when he noticed something strange. The aliens seemed confused by human tactics. They would set up ambushes based on what they thought humans would do, but the humans kept doing unexpected things. They're fighting like they've studied us, Danny told his communications officer, but they don't really understand us. The truth was that the Zephyrians had learned about humans from intercepted military communications and technical data. They knew about human weapons and vehicles, but they didn't understand human psychology or the bonds that made humans fight harder when their friends were in danger. Staff Sergeant Kelly Price was defending the colony's power plant with her team. Her dog Ranger, a Belgian Malinois, had been trained for security work. As the aliens approached, Ranger began alerting to something Kelly couldn't see or hear. Contact left, Kelly whispered to her squad, trusting Ranger's senses completely. They were ready when the Zephyrian infiltration team tried to surprise them. The aliens found themselves facing prepared humans instead of an easy target. The aliens were learning too. Warprime Klaxon received reports from the battlefield that confused him. Humans were somehow detecting Zephyrian movements before they should be possible. Stealth units were being discovered and eliminated with impossible accuracy. How are they doing this? Klaxon demanded of his intelligence officer. Unknown, Warprime. Our soldiers report that humans seem to have advance warning of our tactics. Some mention seeing small four-legged creatures with the human soldiers, but these appear to be non-combatants. Klaxon dismissed this. The small animals were clearly pets, signs of human weakness. They could not possibly be contributing to the battle. On the space station orbiting Europa, Captain Ron Miller was preparing for the next wave of attacks. His security team included Specialist Tina Rodriguez and her dog Ghost, a German shepherd, trained to find hidden explosives and intruders. "Sir," Tina reported, "Ghost is acting like there's something wrong with the cargo bay. He won't go near it." Ron had learned to trust the instincts of both his crew and their dogs. "Evacuate that section and scan it thoroughly." They found Zephyrian infiltration devices hidden in supply containers. The aliens had planned to sabotage the station from within, but Ghost had detected their presence. Another alien plan had failed because of a dog. The pattern was repeating across human space. On every world, every station, every ship, dogs were alerting their human partners to alien presence. The Zephyrians could not understand why their stealth tactics were failing so completely. Dr. Foster was beginning to piece together the answer. "General," she reported to Collins, "I think I know what's happening. The aliens use pheromone communication for coordination. Dogs can detect these chemical signals from incredible distances. You're saying our dogs can smell the aliens coming?" "More than that. They can track alien movements, detect alien equipment, and probably sense alien emotional states. The Zephyrians have no idea they're broadcasting their presence to every dog in the area." Collins was quiet for a moment. Doctor, I want you to work with our K9 units immediately. If our dogs can detect these aliens, we need to use that advantage. On Kepler 4M42b, the tide of battle was turning. The Zephyrians had superior numbers and technology, but they couldn't maintain their tactical advantage when humans seemed to know their every move. Colonel Danny Wright was coordinating a counterattack when he saw something that made him understand. A Zephyrian squad was trying to flank his position, moving through an abandoned warehouse. They thought they were hidden, but Sergeant Kelly, Price and her dog Ranger were tracking them perfectly. Ranger could smell them, hear them, and sense their movements in ways the aliens couldn't imagine. All units, Danny spoke into his radio. Trust your dogs. They know things we don't. The message spread through the human forces. Soldiers who had brought their working dogs began coordinating with them more closely. The results were immediate and devastating for the Zephyrians. Lieutenant Chris Baker and Scout were clearing buildings when they encountered a group of aliens who had taken hostages. The Zephyrians expected Chris to surrender to save the civilians. Instead, Scout led Chris through a route that brought them behind the aliens. The rescue was successful because Scout could track the aliens through walls and floors. War Prime. Klaxon was growing frustrated. His perfect invasion plan was falling apart. Human resistance was stronger than predicted, and somehow they were countering every Zephyrian tactical advantage. Sir, his tactical officer reported, our forces are requesting reinforcements. Human defensive capabilities are higher than estimated. Send the second wave, Klaxon ordered. Increase the pressure. These humans will break eventually. But the humans weren't breaking. They were adapting. Across the battlefields, soldiers were learning to work more closely with their canine partners. Dogs were leading patrols, detecting ambushes and finding hidden enemies. The partnership that had evolved over thousands of years was becoming a weapon of war. Dr. Foster made another discovery that changed everything. General Collins, she reported excitedly, the aliens have a weakness. Their pheromone system can be disrupted. If we can create the right chemical interference, we might be able to blind them the way they've been trying to blind us. Collins saw the possibilities immediately. Doctor, I want you to work with our chemical warfare specialists. If we can turn their own senses against them, we might be able to end this war. The Zephyrians had expected an easy victory over primitive humans. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know their every move, predicted their every tactic, and refused to surrender no matter how bad things looked. What they didn't understand was that they weren't just fighting humans. They were fighting partnerships that had been forged over millennia, bonds of trust and loyalty that made humans and dogs stronger together than either could be alone. The war was far from over, but the aliens were beginning to learn that they had seriously underestimated their enemy. The war was 3 weeks old when the Zephyrians realized they were not fighting individual humans. They were fighting pairs. Every human soldier seemed to have a four-legged partner that moved with them, thought with them, and fought with them. War Prime Klaxon was studying battle reports that made no sense. Explain this to me again, Klaxon said to his intelligence officer. A single human soldier defeated an entire infiltration squad? Not exactly, War Prime. The human had one of those small creatures with him. Our soldiers report that the creature detected them from an impossible distance, then led the human directly to their position. Klaxon clicked his mandibles in frustration. These creatures are not warriors. They are small and weak. How can they be effective in battle? His officer had no answer. The Zephyrian military mind could not understand cooperation between different species. In their world, the strong dominated the weak. The idea that two species could work together as equals was beyond their thinking. On the fortress world of Gibraltar Prime, Staff Sergeant Kelly Price was proving just how wrong the aliens were. Her Malinois, Ranger, had been specially trained after the war started. Now they worked together like a single fighting unit with two bodies and one mind. Kelly and Ranger were on patrol near the base perimeter when Ranger suddenly stopped. His ears went up and his body became tense. Kelly had learned to read these signals perfectly. Contact, she whispered into her radio. Ranger's got something, 2 miles out, coming from the east. Her squad took positions and waited. 20 minutes. Later, a Zephyrian stealth unit walked directly into their ambush. The aliens had been completely invisible to human sensors, but Ranger had smelled them from over 2 miles away. The battle was quick and one-sided. The Zephyrians had planned to surprise the humans, but instead, they found prepared soldiers waiting. For them, not a single human was injured while the entire alien squad was eliminated. This pattern was repeating everywhere. Captain Ron Miller aboard the cruiser Defiant was dealing with attempted boarding actions by alien forces. The Zephyrians would attach to his ship's hull and try to cut their way inside. Human sensors couldn't detect them until they actually started cutting, but the ship's dogs knew they were there long before that. "Ghost is acting up again," reported Specialist Tina Rodriguez. Her German Shepherd was staring at a specific section of the ship's hull and growling softly. "Same spot as yesterday?" Ron asked. "Yes, sir. 3rd time this week." Ron ordered a full scan of that area. They found Zephyrian cutting devices attached to the hull, ready to breach the ship. The aliens were removed before they could complete their work. Ghost had saved the ship again. Dr. Amy Foster had been working around the clock to understand why the dogs were so effective against the aliens. Her research was revealing amazing things about both species. "General Collins," she reported during their daily briefing, "I figured out why our dogs are so good at detecting the Zephyrians. It's not just their smell. Dogs can sense electromagnetic fields, hear frequencies we can't hear, and detect chemical changes in the air. The aliens are broadcasting their presence on multiple levels that only dogs can perceive." "Are you saying the aliens can't hide from our dogs at all?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. Every Zephyrian carries biological and technological signatures that dogs can detect from incredible distances. They might as well be carrying neon signs." Collins was amazed. "What about the coordination between our people and their dogs?" "That's even more interesting. Humans and dogs have been partners for over 30,000 years. We've evolved together. A well-trained human-dog team can communicate through tiny signals, body language, and shared experience. They operate like a single organism with enhanced senses and doubled intelligence." Meanwhile, Major Tony Clark was preparing for a mission to retake the research station on Titan. The Zephyrians had captured the facility and were using it as a base for operations in the outer system. Tony's strike team included 6 human-dog pairs, each trained for specific roles. "Listen up," Tony told his team. "The aliens think they know how we fight. They're wrong. We don't fight as individuals. We fight as teams. Every one of you has a partner who can see, hear, and smell things you can't. Trust them completely." Sergeant Ben Carter was part of the team with his German Shepherd, Rex. Rex had become famous throughout the fleet as the first dog to detect alien presence. Now he was trained as a scout, able to map enemy positions through scent trails alone. "Rex will lead us through the station," Tony explained. "He can track every alien inside and tell us exactly where they are. The Zephyrians have no idea we're coming." The assault on Titan Station was a masterpiece of human-dog cooperation. Rex led the team through maintenance tunnels that the aliens hadn't even known existed. The other dogs detected guards, located weapons, and found the best routes to critical areas. The Zephyrians had prepared for a frontal assault by human forces. Instead, they found themselves under attack from directions they hadn't considered, by enemies who knew exactly where they were and what they were doing. Lieutenant Chris, Baker, and Scout were responsible for disabling the station's weapons. Scout led Chris through a maze of corridors, avoiding alien patrols by following scent trails that showed where the aliens had been and where they were going. "Good boy," Chris whispered, as Scout showed him a ventilation shaft that led directly to the weapons control room. "You always know the best way." The aliens in the control room never knew what hit them. They were watching the corridors for human attackers when Chris dropped through the ceiling behind them. Specialist Tina Rodriguez and Ghost had the job of rescuing human prisoners. Ghost could smell the difference between humans and aliens, leading Tina directly to the holding cells while avoiding enemy patrols. The prisoners were amazed. "How did you find us?" one asked. "Ghost led us here," Tina explained. "He could smell you from 3 levels away." War Prime Klaxon was receiving reports from Titan Station that sounded impossible. Human forces had somehow infiltrated every level of the facility simultaneously, striking at multiple targets with perfect coordination. "How many humans are attacking?" Claxon demanded. 12. War Prime. But they appear to be everywhere at once. Our sensors show them in multiple locations simultaneously. Claxon couldn't understand it. 12 humans couldn't attack a facility designed to hold against hundreds. But the reports kept coming in. Defense systems disabled, guards eliminated, prisoners rescued, communications destroyed. The truth was that the humans weren't just 12 individuals. They were 12 teams, each with enhanced senses and capabilities that the aliens couldn't match. Every dog was tracking alien movements, predicting alien responses and finding weaknesses in alien defenses. Colonel Danny Wright was back on Kepler 442b, now leading the counteroffensive to drive the aliens off the planet completely. His forces had learned to use their dogs in ways that turned every battle in their favor. "The aliens think like a hive," Danny explained to his officers. "They make plans based on what they think we'll do, but they don't understand that we're not fighting alone. Every human has a partner who thinks differently, sees differently, and acts differently. That makes us unpredictable." The battle for the main alien base proved Danny's point. The Zephyrians had built their defenses to stop human soldiers attacking from predictable directions. They hadn't planned for German shepherds who could climb walls, Belgian Malinois who could leap impossible distances, and bloodhounds who could track through underground tunnels. Kelly Price and Ranger were part of the assault team. Ranger led Kelly up the outside of the alien fortress, climbing walls that the aliens thought were impossible to scale. They struck from above, while other teams attacked from below and from the sides. The psychological impact on the Zephyrians was devastating. They had spent their military careers fighting predictable enemies who followed logical patterns. Humans with dogs didn't follow any patterns the aliens understood. "They're not behaving rationally," one Zephyrian commander reported to Claxon. "They attack from impossible angles, know our positions before we take them, and coordinate in ways our tactical computers cannot predict." Dr. Foster was analyzing captured alien communications when she made another breakthrough. "General Collins, the aliens are starting to fear our dogs more than our weapons. They're calling them shadow beasts and ghost hunters. They think we've somehow tamed supernatural creatures." Collins almost laughed. If they only knew that Rex used to chase tennis balls and beg for treats. But the fear was real. Zephyrian forces were becoming hesitant to engage human units with dogs. They were reporting impossible things. Creatures that could see through walls, predict their movements, and appear from nowhere. The truth was simpler but no less effective. Dogs were doing what they had always done for humans. They were hunting, tracking, and protecting their partners. The difference was that now they were hunting aliens instead of rabbits and protecting soldiers instead of sheep. The war was changing. The Zephyrians had expected to fight primitive humans with basic weapons. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that combined human intelligence with canine instincts, human technology with natural senses, and human courage with animal loyalty. The Zephyrian home fleet arrived at Earth 3 months after the war began. War Prime Claxon had called for reinforcements after losing battle after battle to the impossible human dog teams. His massive command ship, larger than any human vessel, hung in space like a dark metal mountain. "This ends now," Claxon declared to his war council. "We will destroy their homeworld and break their spirit forever. No more games with these shadow creatures." But Admiral Jake Morrison had different plans. He stood on the bridge of his flagship studying the alien formation. Beside him sat Rex, the German shepherd who had started it all by detecting the first alien scouts. Rex was now the unofficial mascot of the entire human fleet. "They think they're hunting us," Jake said to his officers. "They're wrong. We're hunting them." The human fleet was smaller than the alien armada, but every ship carried something the Zephyrians couldn't understand. Working dogs trained specifically for space combat. These weren't pets or mascots. They were weapons that the aliens couldn't see coming. Captain Lisa Bennett was aboard the assault ship Ranger with a full team of dog handlers. Each dog had been trained for zero-gravity operations and could navigate through spacecraft using scent trails and magnetic boots designed for their paws. Remember, Lisa told the boarding teams, the aliens expect us to attack like they do, with direct force and obvious tactics. Instead, we're going to hunt them the way wolves hunt deer, patient, quiet, and deadly. The operation began when human ships appeared to retreat, drawing the Zephyrian fleet closer to Earth. The aliens thought they were winning, pushing the humans back to their home world. They didn't know that human boarding pods were already attached to their ship hulls, hidden by stealth technology, and carried by dogs who could navigate in complete silence. Petty Officer Linda Hayes and her Rottweiler Duke were part of the first wave. Duke had been trained to work in spacesuits with a special helmet that let him breathe while still using his incredible sense of smell. They cut through the hull of a Zephyrian cruiser and began hunting alien crew members through the ship's corridors. "Duke's got a trail," Linda whispered into her radio. 15 aliens moving toward the engine room. Duke led Linda through passages that didn't appear on any ship plans. The dog could smell air currents and follow scent trails through ventilation systems. Every step was silent, every movement calculated. The aliens never saw them coming. Duke would alert Linda to enemy positions, and she would eliminate them before they could raise an alarm. In 30 minutes, they had cleared an entire deck without anyone knowing they were there. Meanwhile, Colonel Danny Wright was leading the assault on Claxon's command ship. His team included 12 human dog pairs, each with a specific mission. The aliens had built their ship to defend against frontal attacks by enemy soldiers. They hadn't planned for infiltrators who could smell their way through any defense. "Ranger team report," Danny whispered into his communicator. "In position," came Kelly Price's voice. "Ranger has located the bridge. 23 aliens present, including high-ranking officers." "Scout team?" "Ready," replied Chris Baker. "Scout found their weapons control. We can disable their main guns in 2 minutes." "Ghost team?" "Standing by," reported Tina Rodriguez. "Ghost has mapped their entire computer core, ready to insert the virus." Danny smiled. The aliens thought they were safe in their mighty ship. They had no idea that human hunters were already inside, guided by dogs who could track them through solid metal walls. The attack was swift and devastating. Kelly and Ranger struck the bridge from above, dropping through ceiling panels that the aliens didn't even know existed. Chris and Scout disabled the ship's weapons by following electrical scents that led directly to critical components. Tina and Ghost accessed the computer core through maintenance shafts too small for aliens to guard. War Prime Claxon was in his command center when alarms began sounding throughout the ship. His tactical displays showed impossible things. Human forces were somehow inside his vessel, striking at multiple targets simultaneously. "How did they get aboard?" Claxon demanded. "Our sensors show no breaches, no boarding craft." "His security," Chief clicked nervously. "Unknown War Prime. They appear to be everywhere at once. Our guards are being eliminated systematically, but we cannot locate the attackers." The truth was that the humans weren't hiding from alien sensors. They were, being guided by dogs who could navigate through any ship using senses the aliens couldn't detect or understand. Every dog knew exactly where the aliens were, what they were doing, and how to avoid them. Sergeant Ben Carter and Rex were hunting through the ship's lower levels, looking for the reactor control room. Rex could smell the unique chemical signatures of the alien power systems, leading Ben through a maze of corridors toward their target. "Good boy," Ben whispered as Rex stopped at a heavily guarded door. "Let's see what's inside." The alien guards were watching the main corridor, expecting human attackers to come from the obvious direction. Instead, Ben and Rex came through the air ducts, striking from behind before the aliens could react. Dr. Amy Foster was monitoring the operation from Earth, tracking the biological and chemical signals that the dogs were detecting. Her research had revealed that every Zephyrian ship had a unique scent signature, based on its crew, cargo, and mission. "Admiral Morrison," she reported. "Our dogs are reading the alien fleet like an open book. Each ship has different chemical markers. We can identify command vessels, weapons platforms, and supply ships just by what the dogs smell." Jake nodded. "Target the command ships first. Cut off their coordination." The battle raged through space as human and alien ships exchanged fire. But the real war was happening inside the Zephyrian vessels. Dog-led teams were systematically dismantling the alien fleet from within, striking at critical systems with surgical precision. Major Tony Clark was aboard the alien supply ship with his team, led by a bloodhound named Tracker. The dog had found something that amazed even Tony. "Admiral," Tony reported, "Tracker has located their main ammunition storage. These aliens are carrying enough explosives to destroy half their own fleet. Can you use it against them?" "Already working on it, sir. Tracker found the perfect spot to place our charges. When this ship goes up, it'll take 3 other vessels with it." The Zephyrians were learning what it meant to be hunted by an enemy that could see, hear, and smell things they couldn't detect. Every ship in their fleet was being infiltrated by human dog teams that moved like ghosts and struck like lightning. Klaxon was growing desperate. His mighty armada was being torn apart by enemies he couldn't even find. "All ships, prepare to retreat," he ordered. "We must regroup and analyze these new human capabilities." But it was too late. The human hunters were already inside his command ship, and they had found what they were looking for. Linda Hayes and Duke had located the ship's main computer core, where all fleet communications and coordination were controlled. "Duke says this is it," Linda reported. "He can smell the electromagnetic signatures from the main processing units." She placed the virus-loaded device exactly where Duke indicated. Within minutes, the entire Zephyrian fleet lost coordination. Ships collided with each other, weapons fired at friendly targets, and communication systems failed completely. The alien retreat became a rout. Ships fled in all directions, their crews terrified of an enemy they couldn't understand. The mighty Zephyrian war machine had been brought to its knees by humans and their 4-legged partners. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace, their formation broken and their confidence shattered. Rex sat beside him on the bridge, tail wagging slightly as if he knew they had won. "Good job, boy," Jake said, scratching Rex behind the ears. "I think they're starting to understand what they're really fighting." Dr. Foster analyzed the battle data and made a remarkable discovery. "Admiral, the aliens never adapted to our tactics. Even after months of fighting, they still couldn't predict or counter human-dog coordination. Their military computers simply can't process that kind of partnership." The victory at Earth marked the turning point of the war. The Zephyrians had learned that humans weren't just another species to conquer. They were something entirely new in the galaxy, a race that had turned natural predators into perfect partners, creating a fighting force that no amount of technology or tactics could overcome. But the war wasn't over yet. Klaxon was retreating to regroup, and the humans knew that the aliens would be back with new strategies. The question was whether the Zephyrians could learn to fight an enemy that operated on principles they didn't understand. The hunt was far from finished, and both sides knew it. 6 months after the failed attack on Earth, War Prime Klaxon made a decision that shocked the entire Zephyrian Confederation. He sent a message to Admiral Jake Morrison requesting a meeting, not for surrender, but for something the aliens had never done before. They wanted to understand their enemy. The meeting took place on Luna Base, Earth's moon station. Jake brought a small delegation including Dr. Amy Foster and Captain Lisa Bennett. But the most important member of the human team was Rex, the German shepherd who had started everything by detecting the first alien scouts. Klaxon arrived with minimal guards, a sign of respect in Zephyrian culture. He stood 8 feet tall in his black armor, but somehow he seemed smaller than before. The months of fighting humans and their dogs had changed him. "I come to understand," Klaxon said without his usual arrogance. "My species has conquered 17 star systems. We have never failed to defeat an enemy. Yet you have stopped our advance with creatures we dismissed as weak animals." Jake gestured to Rex, who sat calmly beside his chair. "These aren't just animals. They're our partners. We've been working together for thousands of years." Klaxon studied Rex with his compound eyes. "Explain this partnership. Our scientists cannot understand how 2 different species can coordinate so effectively in battle." Dr. Foster had prepared for this moment. "Your species evolved as individual hunters or hive minds. Humans evolved differently. We learned to work with other species because it made us both stronger. Impossible, Klaxon clicked. The strong dominate the weak. This is natural law. Not always, Lisa said. Sometimes the strong protect the weak, and the weak help the strong. Rex here has better senses than any human. But I can use tools and make plans that he can't. Together, we can do things neither of us could do alone. To demonstrate, Lisa gave Rex a simple command. The dog immediately went to a hidden panel in the wall that contained emergency supplies. Klaxon's guards tensed, but Rex simply retrieved a medical kit and brought it back to Lisa. How did he know where to find that? Klaxon asked. I taught him yesterday, Lisa explained. He remembered the scent of the medical supplies and the location. Now if I'm injured, he can get help for me. If there's danger I can't detect, he can warn me. We take care of each other. Klaxon was silent for a long moment. In his culture, such cooperation between species was unthinkable. The strong ruled, the weak served. There was no middle ground. Jake decided to show Klaxon more. Would you like to see a training exercise? They moved to the station's training facility where Colonel Danny Wright was working with his expanded K-9 unit. Dozens of human dog teams were practicing complex maneuvers that combined human tactical thinking with K-9 natural abilities. Klaxon watched in amazement as the teams moved through simulated combat scenarios. Humans and dogs communicated through subtle signals, coordinated their movements perfectly, and solved problems that neither species could handle alone. The dogs detect enemies we cannot see, Danny explained. We plan strategies they cannot understand. Together we create solutions that your forces cannot predict or counter. One demonstration particularly impressed Klaxon. Staff Sergeant Kelly, Price and Ranger were tasked with finding hidden enemies in a mock building. Ranger led Kelly through the structure using scent trails invisible to any technology. When they found the hidden targets, Kelly used her weapons while Ranger provided intelligence about additional threats. Your dog is not a tool, Klaxon observed. It thinks independently but works with you willingly. That's exactly right, Kelly said. Ranger isn't my weapon or my servant. He's my partner. We trust each other completely. After hours of demonstrations, Klaxon finally began to understand. The humans hadn't trained dogs to be slaves or weapons. They had created genuine partnerships based on mutual benefit and trust. Dr. Foster explained the science behind it. Humans and dogs co-evolved. We changed each other over thousands of generations. Dogs became better at reading human emotions and signals. Humans became better at understanding and communicating with dogs. We're not the same species, but we think together. This is why our strategies failed, Klaxon realized. We analyzed humans as individuals. We never understood that you fight as bonded pairs. Jake nodded. Every human soldier has capabilities you can predict. But add a dog partner, and suddenly we can see in the dark, track enemies through walls, and coordinate in ways your computers can't calculate. The conversation continued for days. Klaxon interviewed human soldiers, watched more demonstrations, and studied the research data that Dr. Foster provided. Slowly, he began to understand something that changed his view of the universe. In all our conquests, Klaxon admitted, we have never encountered voluntary cooperation between different species. We thought it was impossible. Maybe that's why you lost, Lisa suggested. You're very good at war, but you don't understand partnership. Klaxon made a decision that would reshape galactic politics. I will recommend to the Confederation Council that human space be declared autonomous territory. You have shown us something new. Perhaps there are other ways to exist in this galaxy besides conquest. Jake was surprised. You're giving up your invasion? We are recognizing that some species cannot be conquered because they are not truly alone. You fight not just as humans, but as something larger. Our military doctrine has no answer for this. The peace negotiations took weeks, but eventually an agreement was reached. The Zephyrian Confederation would withdraw from human space and recognize humanity's right to exist independently. In return, humans would share their knowledge of interspecies cooperation. Dr. Foster established the first interspecies partnership research institute, studying how different species could work together for mutual benefit. The research attracted attention from across the galaxy as other races learned about the human-dog bond. Colonel Kelly Price became the first director of the Galactic K9 Academy, training human-dog teams for diplomatic and scientific missions. The same skills that had won the war were now being used to build peace. Ben Carter returned to his farm on New Montana, where Rex resumed his peaceful duties. But now the old German Shepherd wore medals from the Earth Defense Fleet, and his offspring were in high demand as partners for humans throughout the colonies. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. War wasn't always about superior technology or greater numbers. Sometimes it was about understanding, cooperation, and the bonds that made different species stronger together than they could ever be apart. Admiral Jake Morrison kept Rex with him when he was promoted to head of the new Interspecies Defense Command. The dog who had first sensed alien danger became a symbol of the partnership that had saved humanity. "You know what's funny?" Jake said to Rex one day as they watched ships from a dozen different species docking at the new diplomatic station. "The Zephyrians came here to conquer us. Instead, we taught them something they'd never learned in all their wars." Rex wagged his tail, understanding the tone if not the words. He didn't care about galactic politics or military strategy. He was just happy to be with his human partner, doing the job they had evolved to do together. The war was over, but the partnership continued. Across human space, millions of dogs continued their ancient role as humanity's companions, protectors, and partners. They had helped win a war not through violence, but by showing the galaxy what was possible when different species chose cooperation over conquest. Other races began seeking similar partnerships with their own native species. The Zephyrian Confederation itself started research programs to understand cooperation instead of just domination. The galaxy was changing, and it all started because humans had learned long ago that the best way to survive was not to fight alone, but to find partners who would fight beside them. Rex and his kind had taught the universe that sometimes the strongest bonds aren't forged in conquest, but in friendship. Dr. Foster's final report summed it up perfectly. Humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology or our tactics. It was our ability to turn enemies into friends, predators into partners, and competition into cooperation. The dogs didn't just help us win the war, they helped us show the galaxy a better way to live. The stars were vast and full of danger, but humanity no longer faced them alone. They had their oldest allies beside them, ready for whatever came next.